Hi, and welcome to a PowerShell tutorial on the PSWriteHTML. This is our fourth video with this module, and in this video, we're going to be kind of combining all the different things that we've learned in the previous videos with the PSWriteHTML, which if you guys haven't seen those yet, we actually go over how to create some Visio diagrams, how to create some neat looking tables very easily in HTML, and then also creating a cool little web calendar that you can use as well for different data driven information that uses dates. So today we're actually going to be creating a dashboard which we can actually put all of those different widgets all together into one page. So we'll be seeing like a simple example. I'm just going to do a basic dashboard on a computer information. So we're going to put like the computer name, some of the computer info, the network information. We're going to get the processes and the services running on our computer. And then what we can also do is we'll just add a simple calendar. And in that calendar, we're just going to go ahead and add some events in there in the second page. But that will give you guys a very good idea on how to create a dashboard in PSWriteHTML. So let's actually go ahead and let's get started. So as always, we do need a file path to store our HTML. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to create that right away. And I like to always just create using the copy path here. And that I clicked the wrong one. So copy path. And we're just going to erase the name of the file here. We're just going to name that as dashboard.html. And then we can go ahead and get started. So the keyword that we're going to want to use here is actually just dashboard. And then all we need to do is give it a name. So I like to just give a name here. And we're just going to name this our test dashboard. And we are going to connect it to online to get all the styling. And then the file path for it, we are going to go ahead and put that as file path. And all we need to do is do an open and closing curly bracket. And this actually sets up our dashboard. Now in a dashboard, you can have things called tabs, and these will show up at the top. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to create two tabs right off the bat here. So we're going to do a tab and we're going to do a name for this tab. So we're just going to call this one computer details, I guess. Or we're going to do computer information. I think that'll be better. And then we can do an open and closing curly bracket, and we can go ahead and actually create our second tab right away. And we are going to say that this is going to be the event log data, and we can open and close curly bracket there. And then inside of a tab, what you're actually going to have is you're going to have sections, and then you're going to have panels. So we're going to create our section here first. We're going to put a name here as well. So we're going to do section name, and we're going to put that as information. And then inside of here, what we actually want to have is two other sections. So we're actually going to see what that looks like here in just a second here. So let's create a section here. We're going to create with the name of computer information. So actually that title probably doesn't really work out too well. So we're going to change that in just a second here. So once we have that section, let's create another section here. And we're going to put this name as network information. So all I'm going to do instead of computer information, we're just going to say information here as the first tab. And then the section name, that is going to be maybe the actual hardware information, because that's really going to be what the computer and network will give us. We're going to do our open and closing curly brackets here. So actually, even with just this amount of stuff here, we can actually already generate the page. And we're going to see a little bit of what it looks like here. So once we actually create this here, we're just going to wait for it to pop up in our Edge browser. Oh, one thing that we forgot to do, after the closing bracket of your dashboard, always add the dash show at the end, and that will actually automatically open it. So here we have our two tabs at the top. So we can actually change from the information tab to the event log data. Then we have our hardware information section, and then we have our two subsections here. And the sections will have like the light blue highlighting here because we are just using the default. Then we have our computer information and our network information. So what we can actually do afterwards from here is we can add more sections. So let's actually add a few sections here. Just get all of our sections created, and then we'll start putting in some data into them. So let's create another section here, and we're going to name this one processes. And this is where we're going to put all of our processes that are currently running on the computer. And we're going to have one last section here, and we're going to name that services. And that's where we're going to have all of our services that are currently running or stopped or anything like that. And then in here, let's go ahead and let's do a section name, and we're going to have application because we're just going to put the some random calendar information in here. We're just going to name the section application, and we can go ahead and we can actually save this here, and let's go ahead and let's run this, and we're going to see all the different parts here. So here we can see that we have a section, we have our two sections within a section, and then we have our two other ones here, and then we have our one section in the second tab. So all of our sections are created. Now what we really need to do is actually put our information in here. Now this is less with PSWriteHTML, but just more with PowerShell. So if you want to put your own data in there, feel free. I'm just going to be doing a little example here of getting some computer information and storing that in there. So what we're actually going to do is we are just going to get computer info, and we're actually going to call the get computer info commandlet. I'm actually just going to get all the details because I'm actually then going to store it in a hash table. And the reason for the hash table is you're going to see the differences when we don't put it into a hash table. It just looks a little different in the dashboard layout. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable called computer details, and we are going to go ahead and create a hash table. So that is just the @ symbol and then the opening and closing curly brackets. And we're going to put the information that we want in here. So I'm going to want the computer name, and that is going to be equal to computer info dot cs name. Now there is, like, if you did want to see where I'm getting all of these the property names for, if you do run the get computer info, you will see that it does spit you out a lot of information. And there you can actually just look through and find out what properties you would actually want to show if you want to use this in the future for yourself or for work or for anything like that. You can actually get quite a bit of information here. So we're going to put the manufacturer of the computer. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put model, and we're going to go ahead and just make that equal to CS model. And I'm going to put the OS name in here as well, just so we know what's installed on the computer. So we have computer info dot OS name. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to do the install date just to find out when the OS was actually installed on the computer. Here we have computer info, and we have Windows install date from registry. And now we want to put this information into our section here, which is called the computer information. So here we're actually going to put a table in here. And what we're going to do for this one is we're going to hide the footer. We're going to hide the buttons. We're also going to disable paging. And then we're going to put a data table, and our data table is going to be the computer details. So if we go ahead and we actually run this now, so when we run this, it's actually going to generate the page with all that information on there. And there is our computer information. So we have, now remember that hash tables aren't ordered. So So just be aware that it won't be in the same order that you created your hash table. So just be aware of that, but you can definitely reorder it with the different buttons. So here we can actually order it in alphabetical order. So here we can actually have our computer name at the top here just because it starts with C. And then we have our install date, our manufacturer, our model, and our OS name. So here's all of our computer information. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to add the network information. And that's actually like, these two are the most complicated that we're going to be doing today. The processes and the services are quite much simpler. So let's go ahead and let's get those network information. So the first thing we're going to want to do when we get the network information of our computer is, of course, as always, we're going to be creating a variable here. We're just going to call that network adapter. And what we want to do is we want to get the network adapter that our computer is really running on, especially since we have a virtual lab here, and my virtual lab is always running off of a laptop. So our wireless card is doing all of the work here. So we're going to do a get network adapter where name is equal to Wi-Fi. And now I'm going to show you guys where I got this from. So if we just run the get net adapter here, we're going to get a few different things with regards to how many network adapters you have on your device. I want to specify the Wi-Fi one, so that's why I'm grabbing the Wi-Fi. And the main reason for this is we want to get the interface index here, which for us is 7, but that might change. So that's why I always get it dynamically. It usually doesn't change once you're already on the computer. But if you're going to be copy pasting this script to multiple computers, you definitely want to get that programmatically. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to create our second variable here, which is going to be the network IP details. And we're going to get a get net IP address. And then we're going to put in the interface index, and we're going to put in our network adapter .if index in here. And that will get us all the details specifically for that interface. So we can go ahead and we can run this here. And now we have all of our information for our IP address from that network adapter. And then all we're going to do, kind of like what I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're going to see one where we don't format it into a hash table, just so you guys can actually experience what it looks like if we don't do any formatting work to it. Now, of course, because this is working off of HTML as well, if you rather code it all in HTML yourself and put the variables in yourself, you can definitely feel free to do so. But with the PSWriteHTML, it definitely makes it quite a bit easier just to go ahead and put the data table here. And actually for this, I actually like these arguments of just no footer, no buttons, and disable the paging because it's a fairly simple amount of information that we're displaying. And we are just going to actually go ahead and put in right away our network IP details. So if we actually go ahead and we show this here, let's go ahead and let's see what it looks like. We will actually see that now we actually have our network information in here. And we can actually go look at the DHCP information. And then down here is where my IP address is. And it gives me that it is a Wi-Fi. It gives me my interface index there as well. It gives me all the information that the commandlet would really give me. And it's a little bit easier to see. You don't need to go into a PowerShell window. So if you can easily store this on a server, maybe have a scheduled task to run this every morning, and it creates a page for your server or for your computer. And you can come in here and look at that information. That is definitely something very valid here. This is just one example of how we can use the dashboard. Another example is storing your Active Directory information in a dashboard. Maybe all your users that are locked out, all your users that are disabled, maybe your users that if you use the option to deactivate users on a certain date, show the ones that are coming up for expiration. So this way, maybe you can follow up with their managers or something if they need to be reactivated or if their access needs to be extended for whatever reason. So now what we want to do is we want to get the services and we want to get the processes. Now we've done this many times on the channel here, but we're going to go over it just again, just for the people that haven't seen it before. So we're going to go ahead and create a variable called process, and we're just do a get process. Now, what I want to do for the services is I actually want to have two spots for our services. One spot was all these services that are stopped. One spot was all the services that are running. So what we actually need to do is we need to create two variables here for that. You can actually create three variables. This way you're only fetching the services once. So let's actually go ahead and let's do that. So let's create a variable called services, and we're just going to make that equal to get service. And we're going to right away limit our get service to just select name, status, and start type. I don't really like to get a lot of information. It gets very, very convoluted in a dashboard. And you want your dashboards to be very easy to read for people. They're usually meant for management or maybe yourself, that you just want a quick glance. You don't really want to have to filter through a lot of information. You want it to be very easy to understand and not a lot of clutter, because that kind of gets distracting. So once we have our services here, we're going to create two other variables, one called services stopped and one of them called services running. And all we're going to do here is we're going to take our services and we're going to pipe that to where status is equal to stopped for this one. And we're actually just going to copy paste that here. And we are going to put running for this one. And that should be good to go. And then we can go ahead and come into our section for processes here. And then what I like to do, we actually don't need it for processes. So let's actually just go ahead. Let's create our table. It's going to be a data table. And we're going to put our process information. Now for processes, because there might be a lot of processes, I leave the footer, the buttons, and the paging on there. So it gives the ability for the user to export the processes. Maybe something's going wrong and they want to grab like a kind of a screenshot of what's going on at the time. So they can export that to an Excel or a CSV file. Now for our services, what I really like to do here, instead of splitting it into two separate sections, what we can even do is create two little panels. So let's create some panels here, and we're going to see what those look like in just a second. And then in the panels, that's where we're going to put our tables. So let's go ahead, let's put our first table here, which is going to be services stopped. And then we can go ahead and put our services running here. That should be good. All right. And let's go ahead and let's run this here. We're going to see a few errors for the get service, but that is quite all right. I am just not running it with the proper privileges here to get some of the services that are running, but you should have no issues on your side. We're still going to get a lot of the data back anyways. So here is our quick little dashboard here. We can see our processes. We can see our computer information still. Here's all of our processes. We can actually export those, as we've seen in the first video where we looked at the different HTML reports and tables. And here we have our two panels. Now, the downside about panels is at this point, we don't really know if these are two different things. Like we know that we've coded it to be all of these services are stopped, all of these services are running, but there's no real clear demonstration of that. So maybe these would be better as two separate sections again within these services. Or, I mean, you can definitely combine them into just one table and then do the conditional views, as we've seen in the first video, where you can highlight the different rows with the different colors to kind of show problems. Again, this video is more just to show the capabilities of these dashboards. And then we have our second tab where we can put a whole bunch of other information in here. So let's go ahead. Let's just see what that looks like here. All we're going to do is we are just going to go ahead and put a calendar. Let's just go ahead. Let's put a calendar in here, and we're just going to put a calendar event. And we're going to say title, and we're going to say filming of video. And the start date, we're just going to do a get date on that. And that should be okay. And let's just go ahead and let's run this here. We're going to see the finished product, which is a very nice, very easy to build dashboard. And like I said, you can use this for tons of different things. Active Directory is just one of the many that you can do it for. I did see an error happen here. So we got an error, and that is because we just put that as if it was a string. So let's just go ahead and let's fix that here with the start date. Just going to put that in a variable wrapper. We could have put that in curly brackets as well. I like to do it with a variable wrapper. It just seems a little bit easier for me. It's a little bit easier to remember as well. So let's just go ahead and let's run that. And I find that you can use variable wrappers in a lot more spots as well. So here is our event log data. Now, of course, we have seen a video in the past where we saw how to actually go look at the event log and pull that information back. So if you do want that, that's the video that we posted just last week. But just to keep this video a little bit shorter and just to get that content in there, this is how we would simply put a calendar in the second tab here. And then you can actually put in all your event log data in here. And then in your first tab, you can have all of your computer information. Like I said, you can put your Active Directory information, maybe your website data in here. Maybe you have a bunch of databases that you want to monitor. You can put the health status up here. This is just a very easy way to grab tons of data and put it into a dashboard, very similar to how Power BI does dashboards. But this would be more getting data through PowerShell. So if you use a lot of PowerShell to create some simple email reports or some simple CSVs, and you would actually like to make those a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner, maybe easier to access, you can use PSWriteHTML and create some nice looking web dashboards. If you're running these maybe on a computer, on a scheduled task every morning, and then you can pump those out to a website or a web server and name the files, the name of the computer, if that is a unique thing for your company. I know for mine it is. Each computer has their own unique name. So if you name them the name of the computer and then pump that up to the web server, if someone has a problem with their computer, you can simply go see what the information was when they logged into their computer this morning, and or maybe the last time that they logged into their computer. You would see that dashboard that got generated. Or maybe it's something that you just have it on their computer, and then when you remote into it, you can go ahead and run the dashboard, and it'll just pump you out all the information that you kind of need to do some troubleshooting that you're doing to help them out. So that is really the PSWriteHTML. If you guys have any other questions or comments on this module or any other module, please let me know in the comment section down below. I'll do my best to get back to every single one of you, or if it's something that could benefit the whole community, make another video on that as well. Please be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified when the next video comes out. And I will see you guys on the next video.